Hello and welcome back to Inquisitor Martyr. Last time we finished off all of the Chaos United quest lines. All that's left is the priority assignments. I had to look up the word. I was like, mini mission, and I'm like, no, that's not it. But we're going to do the Drakari Menace storylines and get those going.
Station. Tech Priest, I need a status report.
Monastery has been inactive for 32.7 standard Imperial years. No signs of tech plagues or co-necropsy. Augury sensors indicate immobile life forms in your vicinity.
I'll take a look around. If I can find out why the station went dark, it might tell me more about the fate of the system. I found the remains of an Imperial squad. They have been massacred.
Possibly of a hostile incursion, increased by 85.7%.
The question is, was this a chaos ambush or a Xenos attack?
Other fact.
This must be the welcome.
So in my Lionel Johnson video, I had talked about like the other Primarchs and who would show up and whatnot. As I had edited that video, I realized something. The perfect fight, in terms of a matchup, for Fulgrim is clone Fulgrim. Because think about it, what is Fulgrim's biggest flaw? He's incredibly vain. He is so full of himself that the most poetic justice possible would be for him to face his better self. It's the classic, who are you, I am you but stronger kind of deal. Where he has to reckon with facing a clone who knows what he did, and who vowed to not make those mistakes. Granted, I believe Fabius Bile figured that he would fall to the same issues. I think that was why he traded him to Trazyn, was because he knew he would fall to the same vices and flaws, and it would inevitably go nowhere. Why Fulgrim cares, or not Fulgrim, why Fabius Bile cares to that degree, I don't know. Granted, Fabius Bile is... I would put him, honestly, as much a wild card as Cypher. He sticks to being chaotically aligned most of the time, but stuff like War of the Spider, where he kind of rebels and just kind of goes in his own direction, it makes him erratic. Which is a very interesting idea for a character, especially one whose cloning facilities are so important to make him not absolutely loyal. You can go interesting places with that. But yeah, I love the idea of Fulgrim versus Fulgrim. This idea that he has to beat himself. Because honestly, who would he fight? He would likely be like, nah, none of you guys are below me, none of you are worth my time. But himself? I can picture that. Him looking at the other Primarchs and being like, none of you are worth my time, you're all lesser than me. And then he steps out and is like, what about me? And then Fulgrim has to face himself. Oh god, that'd be so good. I would love that. It'd be such a fun fight. And you know, just based on what was written, Loyalist Fulgrim could easily cause defections among the existing Emperor's children. Or, like I said too, you could have some of the gene seed kind of come back from really anywhere, be recovered from a Space Hulk or something, And then you have, God. I'm drawing a blank on his name. Archmagos. Why am I drawing a blank on his name? You know exactly who I'm talking about, too. Belisarius Call. God, it took me long. I was watching a bunch of Warhammer Fantasy stuff, so all I could think of was Asavar Kul, and I'm like, no, that is not him. That was the last guy before Archaon. That is a completely different setting. But yeah, Call could rig up something and get some Primaris Marines, and you could have that perfect fight of Emperor's Children versus Emperor's Children, Fulgrim versus Fulgrim. The mirror match we all wanted but didn't know we needed. Ah, God, that'd be so cool. That would be a good narrative bit, too. I think for just storyline, that'd be so cool. Yeah, it's a little predictable, but who cares? That is a fight in a situation that goes hard.
Enough! You are a...
God, I love this Plasma Caliber. Having it just chained to nearby enemies is so good. And it retains all the single target effects. Actually, let's check it just to be safe. I say that and I want to make sure I'm not an idiot. Yep, single target. Deals heat damage up to 3 additional targets nearby. Actually, any of these good? Ooh, dot duration, that could be good. Kinda tempting, but the loot quality, that's the only thing keeping that thing around at this point, is just giving me better rolls for loot. But yeah, that was like the perfect mirror match. Just Fulgrim versus Fulgrim.
The presence of Drukhari explains the lack of any sign of assault on the station. The Xenos must be using the webway to strike swiftly from their portals and retreat immediately.
Because they can't do anything with the 2, like, unknown Primarchs. Those would never be given names or identities, because they're existing for players to create whatever chapters they want, or warbands, and to explain them in lore. And this way they can BS any new chapter they want to make, as saying, oh, it's an unknown chapter, and then if they decide to expand them enough to give them more defining traits, they could be like, oh, it turns out they're actually a really long lost chapter, or lost gene seed of Ravengard. And then you're like, oh, okay, and you just move on. It is narrative plausible deniability. Okay, that keeps going.
That's one mystery solved. I wonder what happened to his ship and the crew, though.
They might be enjoying the famous Dark Eldar hospitality.
With all due respect, you always seem to find a way to presume the worst.
That's what makes a good Inquisitor, Captain.
So by the time this comes out, the Chaos Dwarves DLC for Warhammer 3 is out. I won't have it because I still have yet to get Warhammer 3. I'm waiting for a sale. But I've watched a good amount of gameplay and it's already been available pre-launch. It looks good. A little overpowered, but I mean, that's how you sell DLC these days. Gotta make everything busted and then you ratchet it back. Because otherwise, I find buffing things is a lot slower of a process. Understandably so. Because you don't want to make things too powerful instantly. But it just sucks because then people who care about min-maxy metagamey BS are more prone to buying the new stuff. And then they get mad because, oh, it's not yeetus deletus anymore, and it's like, yeah, that kinda happens eventually. That's the natural progression of things. If they let things be broken, there would only be like one playable faction at any given time. Yeah, damaging pulse. Only good for one purpose and one purpose only, and that's to destroy terrain.
The data vault is empty. New order.
I don't think this mission really paid out much. That's fine, I didn't expect it to. Next mission, though, we should get another Empyrean Revenant fight. That'll be good.
Tech Priest.
Approaching an Astromalarian base on a world that has been cut off from the Imperium for decades. I must call your attention to the potential consequences of the extended lack of strict military supervision.
My task is to shed light on what happened in the system. If they try to limit me, I'll make sure that they wish they were in the penal regiments of the Commissariat.
So, I was looking at more gameplay for Diablo 4 and saw people doing kind of commentary on the game and the state of it as of now. There's some really weird decisions. I get what they're trying to do, trying to make it more MMO light by moving some of the stuff that would be in your hub town to different locations. But it kind of sucks. Like, one thing I will say is they're like, oh, well, you can do PvP. I don't trust PvP in any ARPG. Simply because your whole goal is to be the most min-maxy cheeselord imaginable. So why would I think it's going to be balanced enough for me to have fair fights against people? There's just no way. But then people are complaining that the Paragon system looks really bare bones, which it does. It's like a weird tile system. I don't even fully understand it. That's part of the reason I'm not too keen on it. The old Paragon system was just like, yeah, here's exact things, put a point in, get a point in a stat. Like, okay, cool, I know what's going on. I can piece that together. But the new thing is weird with tiles, and you can rotate them, and there's capstone things, and it's not like Path of Exile. Path of Exile, their complexity is really good. There's a lot to it. And I think that's what a lot of people were expecting. But a lot of the more diehard players are saying, oh, this looks like crap. I think it does too. But the counter-arguments, I think, are the most feeble arguments possible. Because people are like, oh, well, it'll get more as the game progresses and it's live service, so there'll be more stuff over time. You shouldn't buy a game for what it promises in the future. Flat out. If a game promises, oh, we're going to add more characters, more of this, sure, you can promise the world. Your execution can be flawed, or you just simply might not get the funding you need to continue support. Does that look like it's got a different paint on it? Kind of does. It's pretty neat if it is painted different. But, so you have this issue of people are looking at it in the long term, and you really can't, because the long term will always seem better. Hell, Fallout 76 looks way better than it did at launch. Doesn't mean you should have bought it at launch in the promise that 3, 4, 5 years later it wouldn't suck entirely. No, you shouldn't use that as your justification. It shouldn't suck at launch. But so, there was that, and then people were like, oh, well, it doesn't matter how complex it is, because people will sit there and still have icy veins open on the other monitor and have the most meta build possible. Instantly, that's an opinion I think can get discarded. Because the whole argument is, oh, well, the meta slaves will still be meta slaves. Yeah, they will. You can make the most streamlined system or the most convoluted system. The meta slaves will still follow the meta. You can't stop those people from opening a site that has optimal builds. That's such a pointless argument. Your focus should be on the average person. Will the average person be able to understand a more complex system? Will they have fun with a more complex system? Will they feel there is build variety? Will they enjoy the build variety? Those are questions you can ask. But I hate the meta slave argument. Because it's not a valid argument to make. But there was other stuff. There was a PvE, like, co-op zone that I'm just like, okay, so you have a slightly more challenging co-op zone that, I don't know, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, the game's going to be trash. I just don't know how these ideas are going to pan out. They're ambitious.
I agree.
I'd hope they pan out well, but you never know. Sometimes they can pan out well, it's not the game for them. Like, I would love for Souls games to have world bosses that other players can join in co-op. I think that'd be fun. You could do... I don't really know how you would do it, because you'd have to connect to some primary server, but you could do stuff like that, or more objective-oriented things. That would be fun. Do I think it would work entirely? I don't know. It really requires someone to take that leap. I mean, hell, we just started getting, with Elden Ring, a proper open world. Who knows what the next game will offer as the next thing? Maybe we go back away from open worlds. Maybe we do start going into more co-op things. Don't really know. I don't like the skill system. I think it's very lean for Diablo. It feels very simplified, and people are like, oh, well, there's the... What is it? The runes. There's runes you can get, and I'm like, yeah, but... I don't know, part of me is like, oh, it's different, therefore bad. Which isn't a valid way of judging, but I do think Diablo 3 was for the game, effectively a perfect system for what they were going for. And all I would really want is that expanded. Maybe start leaning into Path of Exile a bit. Don't do what they're currently doing, which feels really wonky, but that's just me.
Inquisitor.
This is Cardinal Julian.
The message seems genuine.
I misread that Explorer Basilica Aureus as Explorer Balenciaga. Really threw me off. But that is all for now. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit the like button. It helps out the channel a lot. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.